Let's have a chat. There's been a lot of talk about the divide of the community and a lot of doom and gloom regarding the state and the future of the finals. So today we'll go over the state of the game and the community, what Embark does right and wrong, and what I think needs changing, and so much more. So let's just dive into it. And for those people out there in chat who might complain that, oh, he's React Andy, reacting is stealing content or whatever. Well, actually, I spoke to Fixie himself, who said, go for it. So L+ ratio to haters ahead of time. We're in the clear. So let's check this out. I'm just gonna give my input on it, and we're gonna listen to see what he has to say, and we'll just take it from there, because I'm curious to hear what he has to say on this whole situation. Because in my opinion, before we dive into it, it's not a good one.
This game has been...
Oh, wait, subs. These are auto-generated, but we need something for you guys that are watching. Let's go.
Primed as one of the most unique FPS titles that we've seen in a while. However, the blend of that uniqueness mixed in with the community and updates has fizzled out a lot of that excitement. Today we're going to be diving deep into a topic that hits really close to home for a lot of us, and that is what's happening with the finals. And I actually think I have the perfect answer. Rewinding back to the end of 2023, the finals is everywhere. Players are dying to get back in after finishing the open beta, and, well, the game overall was expected to contest the Big Five.
I said as much myself.
The game at the time only had 3 maps, which was Monaco, Seoul, and then Skyway Stadium, but players didn't really care about that. The adrenaline of spawning in, blowing up any building, stealing a cash out was just all new fantasy, unlocking something players have been craving for years to finally arrive. The trailer releases, people are interested, and the popularity on this game skyrockets. Of course, at this time there was already small criticisms from the closed betas, but it was nowhere near as sounding as what we currently have now. Players were curious. This is a free-to-play game, and obviously it's not going to be for everyone, so we would expect the popularity to dip after that initial hype phase is over. So in order to actually answer to you guys what's happening with the finals, let's first of all actually go over what makes an FPS game fun. Well, first of all, let's start.
I just want to say, before we do anything else, man, the production, at least at this point, has been great. Does he always do that? I haven't really watched one of his videos, but like the way he does the no UI background footage looks banging.
Start off with the obvious. The visual and audio aspects have to be on par and at their highest standards. Even in today's world, the style of art is criticized. I mean, let's take Valorant for example, where people were essentially calling it a mobile-looking game when it was first teased in 2020.
People say the exact same thing about X-Defiant that's out right now. Or there's a beta going on right now.
We know Riot Games' art style, but that doesn't stop the criticism of players across that realm. I think we can all agree that the finals is very good in this area. Visually, the game looks beautiful, and the audio, after some updates, is in a pretty damn nice place. Pairing along with this, we all know Embark's selling point of the game is destruction. In the early days, across every single article that I could find, everyone always mentioned about the destruction, and yeah, obviously, you know, you could tie this aspect into technical, but just looking at a damn building collapsing from something you did as a player is huge, and it really gives that kind of Battlefield nostalgia back. Now the next is, of course, progression. Why should you keep playing the game? What should you even work towards? And I'll admit, this area is something that I felt Embark have missed the mark on massively. When I first launched the game in the alpha, I came under the assumption that your character or contestant would start off as kind of like a nobody, right? Someone who's maybe perceived as an underdog in the realm of the finals, and it's essentially up to you, the player, to build your fame. I really thought that this would be a secret leverage that Embark had, which kind of set it apart from that classic play to unlock weapon system in games such as Battlefield and Call of Duty. Imagine this, as you're slowly building your fame, you get messages from sponsors in the game to play under maybe their brand. For example, you might be given contracts similar to what we have now, where you could basically come to a dilemma where you have to choose who you'd want to represent in the game and then be given rewards for completing those contracts. even some for, let's say, wearing the branding. So you kind of feel like in the arena, you're being backed by an organization, backed by a team, something to represent. I mean, think about sponsor battles, for example.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is literally what they're doing now, the contracts, whatever. This is basically it to a certain degree, but wow, yeah, they could definitely flesh it out a lot more. Maybe they were planning to do that. That sounds awesome, actually. We should have that.
Being able to fight against each other in, let's say, cash out rewards for money, you know, like, let's say, Ospuz versus Volpay, for example, is a really damn fun idea. As your fame grows in the arena, maybe you would, let's say, hear a louder crowd when announcing your team, maybe even displaying something about you as a player on the boards across the arena.
Oh, whoa, yeah, okay.
Of course, team dynamics and roles in FPS games are obviously crucial as well. Why should you work together as a team in the first place? Now, it's factual that games which allow you as a player to choose roles that fit your playstyle obviously enhance team play, right? You know, you could have snipers, medics, assaults as, you know, simple common examples across all games. At the same time, if you want to chill out in a non-competitive environment, then you should be allowed to do so. You don't always have to use the most optimal setup. I will say that team communication is obviously vital for team play to be achieved, but let's be real. Most of us FPS players are pretty damn introverted. It's not every single day that I would want to be using voice comms, so to replace that, we'd obviously need, first of all, an intuitive ping system, and then second of all, a text chat. Even outside the scope of a competitive or casual game environment. I mean, sometimes you might want to tell your teammate after getting an elimination onto me, for example, you know, look how trash this washed YouTuber is. Or, you know, what the hell was that? You know, when you kind of see like a random ass bug happen in the game, you know, moments like these add to the experience and, you know, especially sharing it with people on your team. Even to compare into this game, I think the ping system does need an overhaul. You know, take Apex Legends as an example.
Apex is a really good example because they definitely have an incredibly strong ping system that they're working on all the time. I remember reading an article a really long time ago where they were saying that when, I don't know if this is true or not, so like, but I remember reading an article or something that said that when Apex was first developed, they made the game, they played without audio. They were not talking to each other, and they had no headphones on, if I remember correctly, just to make sure that the ping system itself was reliable enough and would convey all of the information that you wanted.
Of a great system they have without it being too invasive to the user's UI, which I'll talk about in a part 2 of what specific changes I want to see in the game, so stay tuned for that. Now, one of the biggest controversies that I know you've been waiting on me to...
And I actually don't know if it's true or not because I never fact-checked it, but if I'm wrong, then that's something they should be doing.
talk about, especially if you're a returning viewer, is the anti-cheat system. This is in theory one of...
It's about to get ugly.
...the biggest drivers why players stick to or quit playing. When I, you know, look into playing a game for the first time, it's literally top of my list to check on, you know, how the cheating is in the game. If most of the time I hear that it's a pretty negative experience, I won't even bother in touching the game. In all honesty, this isn't directly impacted though to Mbuck Studios or, you know, the final.
Wait, what's that? That's crazy. Wait, what are these cheater glasses? We gotta check that out later. What?
Rampant right now.
That's crazy. Mine don't do... My glasses don't do that. That's crazy. Are people gonna start telling me to show my glasses now on stream?
Taking over even the biggest titans so far, for example, like Counter-Strike 2 and Apex Legends.
It's crazy.
Obviously, for a longer time, but more notably, Escape from Tarkov. And let's be honest, the cheaters are winning the battles right now, and something really has to give, or some, I guess, evolution has to take place for those tables to be turned. A lot of the solutions come through, for example, like the Face It anti-cheat, where players, like pro players, aren't even confident in playing the games in their own in-house matchmaking systems. They go and turn to third-party solutions to be able to fix that issue for them. I want to mention that obviously I think cheat developers, you know, do expose vulnerabilities in their game's code that obviously game developers can patch up. But unfortunately, you know, they don't do it for the good. And I think that the players that buy the cheats and use them don't really understand
that's a banger
will hold in FPS games if things stay the way they do. Now, you obviously know that I can't change these players' mentality, obviously, so, you know, why would they listen to me? But really, I think that if nothing changes, this entire FPS genre will die.
100%. 100%. It's the sad truth. Have you like if you've gone to any other games right now? Like if you play, I want a better frame to freeze on. If you play any other shooter, you know, like he's saying, it's all over the place right now. Any big shooter right now is riddled with cheaters. The finals is not the only game struggling. Apex is struggling. Counter-Strike is going through a cheating right now. Like I don't know the specifics, but I believe like there's so many cheaters it's entirely unplayable. Yeah, FPS games are basically done. You are not wrong. It's extremely frustrating because I've been honing my shooter skills for my entire life basically, and it sucks that people are just downloading cheats and getting away with it. I'm not sure what the solution is, so hopefully Fixie has one. But I think that is what he's saying is absolutely true. It's something I've been saying myself for a really long time. Like if it continues like this, where every single game you play, you just get swarmed by cheaters all the time, then what ends up happening is like again, nobody's gonna want to play shooters anymore. Your skill isn't gonna be worth anything. It's not gonna be enjoyable, and obviously because you're gonna keep playing the cheaters over and over again. It's very easy to cheat, yeah. I think in part it's like it's a cultural thing. Like after COVID, people started sucking a lot more and became like a lot more individual and greedy. But that's like a whole different discussion. But I feel like there's a lot more cheaters because of that.
Why do people cheat in the first place? You could ask me.
That's the thing console has over PC. Yes and no. You still have like recode scripts and Chronuses and whatnot, right?
Honestly, I do think that a huge chunk of it actually boils down to ego. We've kind of grown up in an Instagram, TikTok world where everything is perfect. Everyone's eating healthily, right?
This is actually my next point. I might cut into what he's saying here, but I want to add this because I've had the exact point. I've said the same thing on stream. It's these damn Zoomers. It's these damn kids. It's these damn kids, chat, are ruining gaming. Because you go to, like, we saw that with Apex. You had, there was a whole movement scripting epidemic that I think they fixed, but finally. But, like, for a really long time, you had these players, like M&K players, who were extremely good at aiming, extremely good at movement. Like, they spent thousands of hours practicing it. And then they post that on TikTok. Oh, thank you, Amanda, for tier 1. They post that on TikTok, and then these Zoomers, they see it, and they go, oh, I want to do that, but I don't want to learn how to do it. They just want to post the TikTok themselves. So they start scripting themselves and doing these advanced movements that are better than jumping around. And then you have the, oh, Buffalo thing with Prime. And then you have the, and that's just one portion of it, like in gaming. That's the way I've seen it. But the thing is, I've like the angle is coming with here is specifically steroids. You can't really tell. I don't really like, I'm not very disciplined and I'm on a bulk, but I've been working out as much as I should. But I've been consistently going to the gym for like over a year now, work with a PT and whatever. If you guys saw me a few years ago, you know how I used to look. It's a lot different. And I'd say that right now, so this isn't like an insane build or anything, but you know, we got a little bit of back action going on there, a little bit of rear delts, a little bit, no juice, all natty. But there's been this upcoming thing where people will, like every gym influencer is like juiced up so much. And what ends up happening is that they juice up, and then all these kids, they see that, or they see people have gone to the gym for like 5-10 years, and they're like, oh, they're juiced up. Or I want to get that too. I'm going to start juicing up as well. And whenever I go to TikTok, it's like these 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, you know, they just became teenagers. They're like, oh, how do I look like Arnold or whatever, right? Like they just want to cut these years and just take the shortcut. They don't care about the health ramifications or whatever. And obviously the culture becomes that everyone's just trying to take steroids and kind of get ahead. The same way people are doing in video games, in shooters. These aren't nudes. Come on now. Pinnacle of consumption era. But yeah, it's like you can go into any I keep getting TikToks about this, but you can go into any comments and people are discussing taking steroids and whatever. It says an unrealistic image too. Oh yeah, that's like that's slightly different because when you compare it to like the whole cheating situation. But my point is, there seems to be like a trend in society almost, where like, okay, like he's saying here in the video, you have to be perfect, you have to do everything right. People are looking at the TikTokers and the content creators and they're trying to replicate the same without the effort.
Right, people are going to the gym on January 1st every year, and really I do think this kind of feeds into the mentality.
Oh, Ozempic for weight loss? Yeah, I've seen that too.
Of not losing. We're shown constant clips of streamers and creators all the time with cherry-picked clips of them popping off in our algorithms, and we kind of compare ourselves and we expect ourselves to be just like them in every single game. And if we're not, then, you know, either we'll think that we're a failure, there's cheaters, or the game is just bad overall. No one likes the concept of challenge anymore, or being told, hey, you're just not good. It's
True.
A mixture of time and ego. Players that cheat save time because they progress faster, and they save ego because even if they're cheating and they clutch a 1v3, they still have this crazy feedback loop in their brain that goes, hey, that was pretty nuts. Good job. You can't do anything about it. I mean, how does Valve, worth an estimated $8 billion overall, struggle with cheaters in Counter-Strike 2? The point is, it's just the reality in gaming that we have right now. Now, you could say to me or point me towards someone else that would say, well, Thix, all Mbot have to do is just read their stats, and if they're getting a 90% headshot rate with no deaths and 40 kills a match, just simply ban them.
Classic.
Sure, and that's obviously a solution, and I think the Mbot are actually doing that. Maybe the trigger would happen eventually after like 2 or 3 games or so. Remember, the point is, this is a free-to-play game, right?
Okay, building on that point where he's going, I think my answer to that is actually more that if you, and I think I've spoken to an actual developer about this, maybe he has as well, but I remember having this conversation with a developer of a larger shooter. The problem is, if you arbitrarily go, if you have a 90% headshot percentage, you'll get banned. The developers, the cheat developers, are gonna be like, oh, they're getting banned at 90%. Let's just crank the headshot ratio on my cheat down to 89%, and now we're dodging it. Like they're going to find where that limit lies, and then just keep adjusting over and over again.
Right, so they can just...
Most clips that are posted are cherry-picked. Well, that, yeah, oh, absolutely. But a big problem is also, like, yeah, most clips that are posted are cherry-picked, but also, like, they kind of have to be because people don't watch them if they're not cherry-picked. But yeah, no, for sure.
Simply...
Obviously, if you make a anti-cheat and you, like, gradually you lower that headshot percentage by 1%, eventually you'll get to a point where... like, you'll hit that... What's the word I use? Like, where once you have the legit players that are really good with a high headshot factor, and you have the headshot percentage that's like not legitimate, and they start having a crossover, that would be like between 20 to 50%. Then you can't lower the anti-cheat anymore. The problem is, I think, is that once you force the cheat developers to keep the cheats accuracy, but like the thing is also threshold, sweet spot, yeah, but also like if you do that, a good workaround is literally, oh, the percentage is it's 89% for headshots. Okay, let's just run around and shoot the ground as we're running around, or shoot like next to them or whatever. So that you might, like, over the course of a game, you can have an 89% headshot ratio or 90%, or even lower, but hit all headshots on an enemy because you're hitting walls or whatever, or the ground.
Make a new account, and they're probably not even hardware ID bans, so you might have just played against them on a new account and they're playing on their second game. Maybe the next... game afterwards, they get banned. And it's not even the obvious cheaters that I'm worried about. It's when Embark will basically face what I like to call legit cheaters who will kind of learn to hide this so well, and it will completely decimate the public competitive scene. Alright, here we go. So balancing is another massive controversy in this
Okay, this is the one people have talked a lot about.
game, and no matter what
This is what I talked about before heading into this video.
most of you will probably still hate me. Now, I want to say, please just at least respect me for the fact that I could easily take free wins from all of you as a viewer, which, by the way, if you're still watching, maybe a little bit of a like at least. But, you know, I could easily, you know, research on Google or Reddit or Discord, whatever, what the most popular opinion is for the game right now. Take that opinion for a video for brownie points, so you all consider me as smarter, and, you know, I get maybe more views and subs, whatever. I'll give
Pulling the most critical, format.
you guys my honest perspective, and I've done that since day one. I'm not afraid to call out Embark when I believe that they have done something that's not towards the best intention and that they could improve on, but it's always constructive criticism. I give the reasons why behind my points. I do think that the topic of balancing is actually a mixture of a few things here, and one of the biggest ones I think is that we as a player base don't see what Embark see. Are we inclined to, you know what the data is, even visually, on how much stronger a light, heavy, medium contestant or even a gadget is so that they have to nerf it? Personally, I think we are. We have preferences, and sometimes there isn't really an in-depth explanation as to why Embark make these decisions.
We had this in Apex, and it backfired really hard for the devs. I think the problem is it might put the, like, let's say Embark provides the data for everything.
First off, data is very valuable. You don't want to give it away. But secondly, like, if they give away all the data
For every decision that they make, there's going to be a point where we disagree in the way they read their data. And what ends up happening is, because I think the idea here is if you make the developers list the data and explain why they're making a change, then that means that the developers will be more, they will be more responsible. They'll think about the buffs and nerfs more thoroughly. But what people don't think about is that in Apex we had a guy who did that. He, if you guys know him, his name is DZK. I made a whole video essay about him. And this guy, he did go out and explain some of the changes he made, especially when he met a lot of backlash. And I think it backfired really hard actually for him. Like developers all over the world sees what happens, right? And what happened was he buffed. No, he nerfed Watson. Watson wasn't really that good, and nobody played her. She had like a 1% pick rate or something. And then he buffed her. No, sorry, he nerfed her even more. Like people have been begging Respawn for buffing Watson for like seasons or months for a real long time. I hadn't even seen changes to her, and they, after a really long time, they ended up like nerfing her and saying, "Oh no, we're not gonna buff her." And the reasoning for that was that apparently her win rate was really high, like a 1% pick rate, out of 20 something characters. And I think they had like a 10% or 20% win rate or something. Like it was a higher win rate. Maybe they didn't give us the specific numbers. And that backfired really hard. And the whole community just went up in flames against this developer. And one thing led to another. There was a lot of drama. His wife miscarried. You know, it got pretty rough. And then I think he got fired or he left. I think he left. But it probably would have gotten fired otherwise just to save face. Low use rate, high win rate. That win rate doesn't mean she's OP. No, so the causation correlation was really weird there, because the thing is you have a low pick rate, high win rate. That means that the people that do play her are really good with her. And what you can't see in the data is the people who play Watson in pubs or ranked have a very win-centric playstyle. And most people that play Apex don't play to win. They don't care about that. So it will be skewed by a certain type of player who wants to win versus somebody who wants to kill. But he didn't apply that perspective at all. He just looked at the raw data, and that ended up costing him a lot. but I'd say that like just providing data. That is obviously like we will, the players will, like the player base will always think they're smarter than the devs. So even if the devs do provide the data to support their decision, what ends up happening is that the developers will still somehow be in the wrong. They will still be doubted, and people will still say, oh, these guys are wrong. I'm interpreting the data this way. In this case, I agree with the perspective that the Apex devs, or sorry, the Apex players had, because this dev was clearly not reading the data the right way. But there's going to be a point where it's up to interpretation, and the developers have one interpretation, and the players have another. Reading some chat. What do you think about the latest light nerfs? We'll get to that. If you want to apply this to the finals, I would say it's a little bit, like, it's a bit worrisome, the fact that they are always have been dragging their feet about nerfing Heavy. Heavy has the lowest pick rate. We don't have the perfect, we don't have the data ourselves, but we can look at the data we do have, which is a Steam achievement, which isn't perfect. It's like win 10 games as a Heavy or something, or play 150 games as a Heavy or something like that. It's not perfect, but out of all the legends, Heavy has the lowest pick rate, and I believe maybe even the highest win rate. But like anecdotally, when I play a game, I see even in ranked, like I don't even see that many Heavies. Like when I play ranked, I might see one Heavy per team, sometimes two, but that's like high ranked, obviously. If I go into a pub, quick cash, power shift, I'm not sure. Maybe not power shift, but like, you know, it doesn't matter. Quick cash, cash out, bank it. Like the casual modes, you will rarely see a single Heavy. Like out of the entire lobby, all 12 players will be light or medium. Mostly light. And I feel like they are, maybe they've been looking at the data and going, oh, well, nobody's playing Heavy, so he's not good, because they're very reluctant on nerfing Heavy, despite having such a high win rate. But in that specific case, it is the opposite of the Watson situation, because in this case, Heavy is really strong. He just has a low pick rate because it's not fun to play Heavy. So it's the same thing, right? He has if you want to win a lot of games, you play Heavy, but it's not fun to play, so nobody plays him. As for the Watson in Apex, is if you want to win a lot of games, you pick a Watson, and that enables you to win more games because it's a defensive legend you can control the map with. But it's not that the legend is strong. So you have the same data, right? But ultimately, it's the same conclusion. Or not conclusion, it's the same, it's two different conclusions. Same data, two different conclusions. So data is, you gotta know how to read it. I cannot enable Russian subtitles for the video because I think the way I have my audio set up, you can't really hear when he speaks. I have the subtitles so people can actually hear him. Okay, let's move on.
Remember anyone asking for a range extension on the stun gun, for example?
Oh yeah, we had an ad. Apparently we had an ad on Twitch. If you guys want to get ads, you can subscribe for $5 a month. Oh. Or use your Twitch Prime, either works.
But it just suddenly happened. Now, I will admit they have Embark make these decisions. I don't remember anyone asking for a range extension on the stun gun, for example, but it just suddenly happened. Now, I will admit they have improved on this, as they are starting to, in patch notes, include dev notes just below it. But
yeah, that's good.
Sometimes these notes don't explain enough.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Perspective or a bigger idea. What do you see, Embark, which has made you make that decision? Was it purely just from reading comments on Reddit and Discord? Or was it something to do with data-driven insights that you guys have understood that could make the game improve for the better? They also sometimes adjust weapons, like in Ottr's video, talking about the LH1 recoil buff, without the community even knowing about it in the patch notes. So I really think that about 30% of this problem...
Ottr mentioned chat. Let's go.
literally lies down to communication. I used to be able to, essentially...
Oh yeah, also about that, every game does this. I don't know why they do it, but it's very common that they do these hidden updates. I don't know if it's because they intentionally omit them, so people won't know and they can like kind of adjust and see like, okay, do people actually notice this type of thing? What effect does it have on the players? And they just want to like try different things out without anyone noticing? Or is it that they don't themselves keep track of their updates? Could be either.
Understand the direction that Embark were taking the game. For example, if they were going to nerf heavy or make some adjustments to heavy, then I'd understand, hey, they wanted the game to be less about turtling. They wanted it to be less about the shield, heal, and health meta. The next point about the balancing changes is that I actually think it comes back around to the ego talk that I mentioned earlier, where obviously I do agree that a chunk of things Embark have adjusted have actually been positive, but I feel like most of the anger or complaining comes from the source of the player base. And I know that I sound like I'm being a shill here for Embark, but honestly I'm not. What I'm actually saying is that it's a mix of both the players for complaining and Embark for not standing their ground, which has basically put the game in this really weird spot.
Yeah, I can't say it better myself.
Topic, and I'm about to say a really big quote here, and it's very short, it's very simple, but this game was never made around being a competitive game, but sells that dream to players through its universe. So I've been talking about when the honeymoon phases out many times in my videos, and if you watch my closed beta 2 review, everything I've ultimately said is a concern we're actually facing towards this today. It's no one's fault that you or me perceive this game as a competitive one, because it being a game show FPS where competition is literally the main focus of the world, right? Reach the finals. Can you reach the finals? Asking that question is a competitive question in itself. They are challenging you. Can you get to this point of the game? I think what's happening is that we kind of have this tug of war community now where it's impossible to make everyone happy. And, sure, that's in most games.
I was literally about to say Apex has the same thing. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I'm cooking. I literally... I made an exact video 2 years ago talking about that. Like you said, pros versus casuals. You can just remake that video for the finals and we're chilling.
Well, when you're Embark trying to grow your game and, update it and cater to everyone, you get this really weird spot where players that were maybe starting off by learning mechanics or builds or strategies now have to completely use something else. Imagine if you're a brand new player coming back into this game or, returning after some period of time. You go and have a certain build that you're happy with and all of a sudden Embark completely obliterate parts of that build. Big titles can actually get away with this because they've been established for years and usually they don't make changes every single week. So, the players of these big games are pretty damn loyal. But when you're in what I would say is the growth phase of the game, we have no identity anymore of a playstyle because it just keeps changing each week.
That's a good point. Like, yeah, because I think I've always thought that patching every week is good, but I've seen more and more complaints saying that patching every week is bad for this very reason that he's saying. Everything keeps changing too much. The game's still in a growth phase, and the players, like the really casual players, the dads, the 9-to-5ers that play once a week, once every other week, they don't know about the changes. I've had people, it doesn't really happen anymore because it's so long ago now, but I had people like weeks after nukes were nerfed trying to nuke me and then just looking really confused why they didn't get a kill. Yeah, nukes are a really good example because people, they don't keep up. It happens so fast, so many changes. I think the changes are better for the game, but people cannot keep up at the moment. Maybe that's a problem with weekly updates. Maybe that's a problem with the game not being established enough. Maybe that's a problem with the community, like the gaming as a whole, because we've gotten so accustomed to 90-day big patches, but I don't know. Somebody asked me for gaming sleeve recommendations. You should check out the wall hack gaming sleeve. It's a banger. Code Ottr 10% off. Let's continue.
Sure, I get it, the shush meta was taxing, but we're now in a period of time where Embark will literally tug between now catering every single player base and the data that they have. Embark aren't trying to make a bad game. You as a player are just putting so much pressure on these devs who pour their soul every single week to rotate towards your idea of how the game should be, which might even go against their entire vision. And I promise you, it's not Embark wanting to kill the game. They're being forced to. In a fantasy world where everyone had unlimited time, I literally promise you, get Embark to make a limited time mode with their entire vision on how everything should be balanced, wipe everything out across the entire board, remake how everything is working in the balance system, make that a limited time mode, and I bet everyone will have a way better time than what we have now. Now, I want to stress that we're obviously all allowed opinions, okay? You know, I have opinions each week sometimes on the game, but that doesn't mean that I need to get my opinion fed into the game. I'll just work.
Fortnite did changes when it came out. Well, was that once a week, like game-changing changes? Because we had some huge changes. They are not forced. Well, they might feel forced.
Around what I'm presented with, and that's what I enjoy. Sure, Embark, if you feel something isn't good in the game, change it if it's going to improve the game for the better, but you need to make sure that players can still adapt when you make those changes with other options. When you keep taking away things for me to work around nerfing certain aspects of the game, what used to be helpful to counter XYZ for myself as a heavy main, for example, is no longer prevalent. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I literally had to take apart and reinvent my entire playstyle into something so out of reach than what I used to do. I don't mind that, but it's something that I enjoyed the game in the first place and found fun that I can no longer do now. Or there's something that's just less fun that I have to use just to stay afloat in the game, and that's just the effects of nerfing everything. This isn't from the latest.
That's another thing, he might touch on it later, but there's another problem right now with specifically with the decisions they're making, where they're nerfing everything instead of actually buffing anything. I don't know what's up with that, but like I swear to God, almost every patch note is nerf this, nerf that, nerf this. I rarely see buffs anymore. Everything just feels weak.
Update, by the
Being honest here, the finance game modes are not casual friendly. The game needs deathmatch and brain dead game modes to stick players in a game like COD, and the amount of weekly changes make people go away. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say a hot take here.
So I'm gonna be playing X-Defiant this weekend.
That's not because I'm done with the finals or anything. It's just it's nice to try something new for a change. One thing I noticed with X-Defiant, which was awesome, is that it's instant. X-Defiant is like IV drip. It's an IV drip of dopamine, right? It's amazing. I love it. For that reason alone. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but it's an IV drip of dopamine. And I think all the game modes in X-Defiant are really, really fun. At least the ones I played. I played like 3 of them so far. Domination, Hotspot, and Hotshot, and whatever. So much dopamine. And one thing I noticed is respawns in X-Defiant are half a second. Let me repeat that. Respawns in X-Defiant are half a second. My code for wall hike is Ottr. OTTR. Half a second, chat. That is so good. It feels great. Because in this game, like if you die, like it's a 25 seconds. It's like 25 seconds depending on the mode you can coin, and then if your teammate dies in the next 25 seconds, the last one standing, your entire team wipes. That's an additional 25 or so seconds before you can team respawn. That's almost a minute out of the game in, I believe, every game mode. Who wants to play a game and sit around and do nothing? If I wanted to do that, I'd play Apex or something, right? Like, it's too slow. I think if you have another game mode, give us a deathmatch game mode, maybe like Hotshot. In Hotshot is so fun. Like, I'll explain what it is because it's so cool in X-Defiant. So basically, it's like you kill people and you pick up these coins, and the person with the most coins become the Hotshot. They run fast. The whole map can see them. They run faster. They reload faster. The ADS faster. I believe that's it. Maybe they heal up faster as well. It's a dopamine IV drip. It's amazing. Like you really get that feeling of things going really fast. But the point is that so that would be a good mode, something like that. But just adding a deathmatch style mode, give us 2 teams, team deathmatch or a free for all deathmatch, and just have really fast respawns. And I think that would keep a lot of casual players hooked. A thought I have about game modes is like quick cash and cash out are literally the same thing. It does and the same thing is technically bank it is as well, but it's slightly different. They're basically just deathmatch, or people play them like deathmatch. When I queue up and play a game of cash out, I don't give a shit whether I get 50k cash or 100k cash or 1 cash. The only thing I care about is getting as many kills as possible. It doesn't matter where I place in a cash out game, because between 1 to 4, you're not going anywhere. I miss ranked tournament. I'm like the only person who enjoyed unranked tournaments apparently. But like that's what I liked about it. Even though it was a casual mode, you still had something to keep playing for. Oh yeah, gun game, exactly. I made a whole video talking about things I wanted to see in the game, and you guys, and some people told me, oh, these modes are like too much like other games. But yeah, no, gun game, deathmatch, team deathmatch, those 3 on their own, maybe even capture the flag. And again, with faster respawns in this casual mode would go so far. Because then you would have that constant IV drip of dopamine. People say this game is an ADHD game, but the 50-second respawn timer makes it not an ADHD game. Makes it boring. I also know that Fixie added some more He added some more thoughts in the comments. We're going to look at those as well. I'm not watching Apple's vid.
By the way, I actually think that there's positives to the changes, in my opinion, because, you know, I'm allowed it. Should be that the cloak invisibility, the drama behind it, I think that was quite taxing with the amounts. Maybe change the amounts a little bit. But the cloak invisibility itself should be based on movement and range to balance out the mix. Like, sometimes I swear my game settings are bugged because I literally can't even see an invis-light player on Horizon, for example, sometimes. Even if I hear them for a second, which is weird. But am I going to take that statement, scream it from the top of my lungs in YouTube or, you know, from Discord, Reddit, Pinterest, whatever you guys use, and, you know, say the game is trash and I'm going to quit the game? No, it's just an opinion, and I'm giving, you know, constructive reasons why behind it. How about some of you guys actually support these devs and be on their side for once? I've always said, ever since my I'm Worried video, they changed my perspective on the future of this game. Yes, I want to see a competitive scene. An esports scene? No, we're nowhere near that stage at the moment, and it's not even impressive at this point if you're hitting #1.
He's not even wrong. He is cooking. But I wanted to talk about the invis here, because I felt like he just kind of brushed past it. Or maybe I missed one point because I was trying to multitask it. This is how it works. Basically, more or less. We did an experiment. We're going to do a whole video eventually testing a lot of these mechanics out. I don't know exactly how it works, but like the amount of transparency when you stand still is like 99%. But if the light is like 5 or 10 meters away, it's 100% invisible. If they're moving, that ratio is different. I don't know like how fast they move, if that affects it. But there are things like this happening already, affecting like how invisible somebody is. That being said, some maps, it seems to be more invisible than other times. And I swear to God, it almost feels like it's bugged. Sometimes because I'll have people that I'm shooting at just go invisible and then I can't find them. I think what I would do, like if I wanted to nerf Invis, I would want to know how it works 100%, and then I would want to change it. Like since I don't know how it works 100%, I can't say exactly what I would want to change with it. But what I would want to change right now, going off what I know, is that I want it to be more visible. I want it to be easier to see an enemy across all ranges. I want it to be more like a shroud rather than an invisibility, a cloak rather than an invisibility. I know I'm mentioning X-Defiant a lot, but that's because I played it yesterday. I believe the invisibility in X-Defiant is pretty good. I think it's more readable than in the finals. Not sure how it works over range yet, but it seems to be like you can read it across all ranges, and it is like a cloak. If you pay attention, you can see it. If you don't pay attention, you'll miss it. Been watching you decided to try the finals. New players have to play 45 rounds of play before being able to do tournaments. It really forces new players not to want to play 45 rounds. It's a lot. I mean, to be fair, that's ranked, but I mean, I agree. Oh, like, actually, you're right. That is tournaments in general, because tournaments aren't. What's the word? Tournaments aren't. Didn't used to be only for ranked. So there's a bad point about removing that's a bad reason to remove the unranked tournaments, or a bad thing from it. Do you know the stun gun nerf yet? No, it's on Wednesday. We'll do a patch notes video when it drops. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We have a little bit more to cover.
Like, sometimes I swear my game settings are bugged because I literally can't even see an invis light player on Horizon, for example, sometimes. Even if I hear them for a second, which is weird. But am I going to take that statement, scream it from the top of my lungs in YouTube or, you know, from Discord, Reddit, Pinterest, whatever you guys use, and, you know, say the game is trash and I'm going to quit the game? No, it's just an opinion, and I'm giving, you know, constructive reasons why behind it. How about some of you guys actually support these devs and be on their side for once? I've always said, ever since my I'm Worried video, they changed my perspective on the future of this game. Yes, I want to see a competitive scene. An esports scene? No, we're nowhere near that stage at the moment, and it's not even impressive at this point if you're hitting #1 spots on the leaderboard, because you're just being queued in with golds and silver players.
True.
No one cares if you're a top 10,
exactly.
top 100, top 1,000.
Exactly.
Think about that for a second.
Preach.
That's actually a very big problem, right?
That is a very big problem. Keep cooking.
Having that position, that should have some impressive value attached to it, but ranked is in such a mixed state right now. But again, I'm not being a yes man for Embark, you know, I'm being realistic on both sides. Let's just give an example from a different game, Valorant, for example, right? You know, you see all these pro players in-house playing in their own ranked games. They're not going over to face it. They're not even playing ranked in the first place. You know, these players are high up in Valorant on the ranked leaderboards because they're enjoying playing in a, what I think, I don't look too much at Valorant, but at the time, if not, but hopefully still to this day, a well-made and thought-out ranked mode is and can be. It's the same for the solo queue experience. There's no sense of community in this game. I've had players literally come to me to thank me for having such a small Discord community that they can play in a better environment. Sure, you know, obviously there's bad eggs and people you do deserve obviously a second chance, but we've literally had a period of time where me and my friends were answering support questions for the developers because they saw my server as a more official source over Reddit or Discord, and that's wild to me. We're a small community, and this is mostly our favorite game, okay? I mean, you probably care about the game just as much as me, which is why I understand the fact that I hear and see some of you guys being so emotional in your responses to players sometimes, or even just with your posts, but we really need to start changing up how we respect these damn developers, because honestly, right now, let's think about it from a developer perspective. They're feeling the pressure and demotivation right now more than ever. We have the declines in player numbers and obviously this wild vocal feedback on social media. I know some of these devs on a personal level, and I literally hear and see how much this game means to them, guys. I mean, remember, they literally made this game, if you want the fundamentals, they made the finals as a gift to us away from that corporate greed, away from treating players as customers. They literally have the philosophy on treating their player base as gamers over treating them as customers. What company does that in 2024? They've never asked or forced you to buy a battle pass just to stay afloat. I've never even been presented with like a hey, buy this now. You know, you don't understand what type of world we live in right now and what we're going towards, because we are in deep if this game dies. I can promise you that.
Yep.
Because if this game goes, I promise you, you'll soon be paying subscriptions to play certain modes on top of the fee to play the base game. Archive this quote. It's coming in the future.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting though with what he's saying, 100%. if this game doesn't do well, that is very telling about like gaming in general and shooters in general. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you don't, one thing you have to keep in mind, which I think is very important, and this is sort of going a bit against this point, I'm not sure. When it comes to that, like this game has to do well to show developers that just don't be so greedy, right? Like if you just do a good game and you have good monetization, and the people will come. Like if the game does well, it shows developers that they should do that, and they'll probably kind of adjust their payment models. And if this fails, then they'll be like, oh, they don't care, and they'll just double down 100%. I do, however, think nobody should play or support a game just because that would make gaming better. Like if I made like that's like a market thing, like you know what I mean? Like you can't just support something because its cost is good. It needs to be a good product. We don't know what's wrong with it. He's presented some things that could be adjusted that I've commented on, but I wouldn't want anyone to play this game, and I've said as much, just because it's good for gaming, because it's a noble cause, right? It's a video game. It's not. I'm not trying to protest. And if the game isn't standing on its own, it's a good selling point. But if the game isn't standing on its own feet, then it probably doesn't deserve all that hype. They have to figure out why people are not playing it instead of getting behind a cause.
The devs constructive criticism, but also give logic behind it, and maybe it doesn't even need to
cook too hard.
Not just because you got domed in a 1v3 scenario where you shouldn't win anyways, or maybe you're just on your own as a player and you get stunned and then shot by a light. Like, there's context behind these clips. Sure, by the way, I'm a competitive player and I used to thrash out a lot, okay? But then I kind of realized that this isn't ESL 1 Cologne 2024. You're not a pro player. No one cares about your KDA. If there's a bug, you know, that's fair to be upset. I want fairness in this game. It's impossible for Embarked to sit down and come up with a model for millions and millions of plays that are made in the game and to point out inefficiency within those plays, okay? How about, you know, maybe you just made a mistake, or, you know, maybe why should you care that you died? I start getting quite emotional, man, because, like, it's been over a year that we're playing this game, and I had to take a kind of a second, so I'm sorry. It's not just Embark, okay, that have to take a step back and actually think. Okay, it's all of us. You know, this game is, you know, currently not a competitive game. Yeah, we can make it competitive as a community, okay, sure. And I hope that once they expand on those private lobbies, we'll kind of see this more as a community approach rather than this really weird tug of war going on right now. All of us have something in common. We all enjoy playing the finals. We all love the finals, and most of us want the finals to succeed. Why do you guys all fight against each other? Like, come on, guys. Like, I understand the people that are the bad eggs in the community and you know, might be saying some certain bad things. Sure, I understand you might want to be going against them and backing up, you know, the community and the devs in that way and backing up us as a community. But, guys, come on. Let's start thinking logically here about some of this stuff, okay? And to the Embark devs, you guys know that we have spoken sometimes on a one-on-one basis, and you guys know that I have always said to you, what is the Embark way? That's all from me. My name is...
I can't really see the graphic. Can I get rid of that somewhere? I want to see it for the last one. Yeah, overall. Okay, let's take a look at his comments too, because he had some more things to add or clarify in the comments. Last pillar of many FPS games is going to fail, so I don't think it'll be passionate about another game like this one. That's kind of where I'm at too. I do have to give some credit to XDefiant. Two things I love about XDefiant that I really want to support as well. I didn't know about this going into it, but after I've been playing a lot, I've been told about this. XDefiant has cross-play input lobbies, input-based matchmaking, I think it's called, where it's only MNK versus MNK, it's only controller versus controller, and I believe you can probably have MNK on console. So that means that, and if you're playing a controller in PC, you play against console players with crossplay on. If you play an MNK, you play against MNK players, which I think is really good. And in addition to that, they don't have engagement-based or skill-based matchmaking either, at least in the casual modes, which I think is really good. there's not really any game that does that. So that's another thing I would love to see more. I think it's a very good thing that they're doing. Maybe it would be nice if the finals had it, but somehow you got to protect the new players too, so I don't really know what the play is there. If you go to Reddit, I don't understand why people complain about SPM. It just feels like a normal way to make people play with people they love, which is more enjoyable for everyone. I disagree, because so the thing is, on the lower levels, it protects the bottom 50% of players, SPMM, which is, I guess, is good. But it doesn't protect the top, like if you're in around the middle end of SPMM. The way SPMM usually works is you have so let's say it's usually like, Apex did this, and this seems to be the common way of doing it. You have like 4 skill buckets. Like something like this. SPMM, so these are like bottom 25%, bottom 50%, top 75%, and then the 100%. You get what I mean. This is the best player in the world. This is the worst player in the world. And then it's like, that's usually more or less how the graph looks. The problem is with SPMM is if you're one of these players, SPMM is good. If you're at the top end of your skill bucket, you will be better than everyone else in your bucket. But if you're on the bottom end of the skill bucket, you'll be worse than everyone else in your bucket. You won't enjoy it. The problem is when you are around the middle end of the skill spectrum towards the top end, but you're not here. So like if you're anyone in this area of the skill bucket, so you're better than the average player, but you're not as good as a pro, you have to play against a pro. So, and the only way for you to keep winning and having fun in the game is by trying harder, running tryhard strats, putting your sneakers on, your sweatbands, just trying so fucking hard. And the game doesn't, like, it just stops being enjoyable for you. Because the only way for it to be enjoyable when you don't go 0-20 is by trying extremely hard, because everyone else is trying extremely hard. And over time, the culture in these lobbies becomes, oh, I need to try hard to actually have fun, and then everyone else is doing it, and slowly but surely that level goes up, and you're forced to keep up with it if you even want to play the game and have fun. Let's see, what was Piggy saying? The light cloak nerf was unneeded. This is the old Apex matchmaking, by the way. I think they'll have like 40 buckets now or something. The light cloak nerf was unneeded. They should buff other abilities instead of nerfing things that doesn't need nerfs. Yes, cloak taser is probably super annoying in pubs, but in pubs light is a lot better because people always split. Yeah, I feel like we're at a point where they don't care too much about solo. Not solo, but ranked. Like, the amount of people that play ranked has to be such a minority that they're just going to balance around the people that don't play it. They just balance around casuals at this point. That's kind of what we're learning from the video, or from the latest change. And then, of course, you have that skill-based matchmaking, and then you have engagement-optimized matchmaking that you have. Have you ever played a game? Apex has something like it. Have you ever played a game where you get like shit teammates 5 games in a row, and then all of a sudden on the 6th game, your teammates are the gods of the game and just carry you and you win? You get like a free win. That's engagement-based matchmaking or optimized. Some games have something people like to call the forced 50-50 win rate. Like you win a game and all of a sudden it gets really hard. That's also a little bit like SPMM works. I think it's more about, obviously it's more like how you, like if you win a game, that means you're too good for your lobby, so you need to go up a skill level. But usually what happens is you go up way too much. Like it's too drastic of an increase, and you just end up playing against people that are way better than you are, and then you can't win. Yeah, light is all about punishing people who are misplaying or out of position. Absolutely. Stun gun as well. Literally, I've said it in my video, like how to counter the most annoying things in the finals. And this was 4 months ago, before I was like that good at the game. If you want to counter a light, any light in any capacity, just play with your team. If you're close enough to your team in position, even if the light kills you, they can trade you. There's just no such thing. Like as soon as, if a team plays perfectly, a light can't do anything. And I shouldn't even say perfectly, because obviously it's impossible to play perfectly. But they need mistakes. If you can't go off them, they can't do anything. Can you fix this by making more ranks? You can, but the experience will still be there with the SPMM buckets. Like I said, Apex went from a way higher amount of buckets, and you still have the same matchmaking. Like the logic is still there. Like it's a lot of smaller buckets, but you'll still have the same experience. It's also the point that the buckets are never accurate. How do you counter stun gun when stealing? You put a... You force them to... First off, if they have light, they have stun gun, so just force them to use the stun gun, and then they can't do anything. You can also body block the stealer at the moment. I don't think you should be able to body block the stealer. I think that's a stupid mechanic. But you can just stand inside of the person stealing and wiggle around, and then the light might end up stunning you instead of the person, or like slap a bunch of shields on the point. And there's nothing you can do. If you guys enjoyed the video or agree, let me know in the comments. And of course, like and subscribe. That helps me out a lot.